Grab a biscuit and eat all day.
You're right there. You're really suffering. So we're looking at, oops, that's 5 of the Ratana Sutta. Young Buddha Settro Parivannai Suching Samadhim Anantarikanyamahu Samadhinatena Samunavijati Idam Vidam Vedatalam Panitam. So these relative clauses in Pali, we say that purity that the Buddhas have praised, they say which purity the Buddhas have praised. It's the same meaning, but just expressed a different way around. So, Suchi.
Can't open your notes again. I remember this happened last time.
Oh, is it?
There's no connection in here.
Do you have a bad signal for you?
Yeah, it just says you're offline, even though I'm not offline. I'll be sorted for next time. I've just been stressed out for the last few weeks.
It's picking up your phone's picking up your vibes.
Do you right? Okay, so you don't have it.
I did print it out, but I don't know where it is. It's in my office somewhere.
Well, I can.
But because I'm spending so little time in there at the moment, I don't know where it is.
You don't have it on a kind of digital format, do you?
I'm afraid not. I just have my hard copy.
Right. Okay. Do you remember when you sent it?
Oh,
I just found
Was it a week ago?
Oh no, this would have been several weeks ago.
Yes,
Because I sent the entire document.
Yeah, one would have been sent several weeks ago. Okay. I mean, I could.
Have you found it? You said.
I thought I had, but I didn't find. No, I found your last week's email, but I've got all your emails here, so I don't know which one it would be. Oh, here it is. I think it was the 2nd of May. You sent some attachment on the 2nd of May, so it could be.
Sounds about right because we're doing about one a week, maybe a little bit less.
But you can't open it, did you say?
Or couldn't find it.
Well,
It's not allowing me to open anything. At the
well,
moment.
why don't you go to the other bit of the building, open it, and then come back again?
Pali primer. Is it this one? Is it Lily de Silva's
No.
Pali?
Lily Silva is what we will be doing after we finish this.
Okay.
That's fine.
But this is the.
Right, okay, it's let me open it now.
Ah, right, okay.
So I think it's just a very slow connection.
So it has opened, does it?
I think so, it's just, it's got the weight symbol.
I mean, you can always take it to the other bit of the building where there's a better connection.
Yes, because it's up in the library that we have the actual, what's called router.
I think. Yeah, it's downloading.
Okay, there's some Suchi. This is an example of vocabulary building by knowledge of the roots and the extensions of the roots. Because actually, Such, the original meaning was a combination of brightness and heat. That was the original meaning of this. It's actually Shuj in Sanskrit. And by extension, from brightness, it came to have the notion of purity, but equally from the notion of brightness and heat, it came to mean grief or pain. So you get these entirely opposite meanings, but you can trace them back. So we have Sanskrit, Shuji, and Pali, Suchi, from that root, just meaning purity. But also you will recognize the word shoka.
Soka. Yeah.
Which in Pali, soka, meaning grief. Yeah. And the emperor, Asoka,
That's
he
what I
he
remember,
was
yeah.
the griefless, the one who was without grief, without
All
sorrow.
right, okay.
That-
Yeah.
That's the meaning of his name, Asoka. Notice, by the way, it very, very frequently happens where you get a root ending in a ch or a j sound. Very frequently, its corresponding verbal noun will have a and it's a root chuch, verbal noun shoka, Pali soka. And the most common, most well-known example is from the root yuj, from which we get yoga. Yoga. So yoga. This noun to verb ch and k, the variation, it has survivals in English actually. In our word, the verb to speak and the noun speech, and the verb to break and the noun breach. It works the other way around. There we have the k in the verb and the ch in the noun.
Right.
It
Okay.
sounds, but it's the same idea. You often get the variations. You find it in Russian and Polish as well. You're going to find the same phenomenon occurring. Well, certainly in Russian, almost certainly in Polish. So, Yam Sukchin Perivanai, that purity that the best of Buddhas praised. I'll explain the praise for a moment, but the Buddha said to we have the word Shri.
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 Okay, I know something called Shri.
Right. Shri. Shri originally means brightness or glory.
Oh, wow.
And it is used as a name. In Pali, you have Siri.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's where they got the name from.
In fact, in one point in our Diga readings, the various things that people did that were rather useless, and one was invoking Siri. You say, hey Siri, because it's also the name of a goddess, and so in which in Pali came to be called Siri. You will also find that Shri. Oh. Did you hear that?
Yeah, your phone's talking to you.
Because I said Siri, my telephone.
Yeah.
I was invoking Siri.
Yeah, you did invoke Siri. Now you never believe she'd answer, would you?
Siri answered my prayer. So, in fact, in modern India, you will often find you can put as a term of respect before somebody's name, Shri. So it's often used as a term of reverence or respect. And actually, it's now made my hearing aids go really funny. It sounds all tinny and sorry. I just need to get in and adjust them. Sorry.
I did something similar, not with Siri, but I was on the Merlin Bird app, and it was bringing up crows and various things, and I imitated a crow in the park, and Merlin flashed up that it found a crow.
Right.
So it was actually, I must have done a very good impersonation of the crow.
Impressive.
I only managed to do it once by accident.
So, it's where Shri. And for example, the name of the island Lanka, so
Yeah.
Sri Lanka, which is glorious Lanka. Now, Sri is both a noun meaning glory, and it functions as an adjective meaning glorious as well. It makes a superlative the best or the most glorious. And in Sanskrit, it should become Shrestha. And in Pali, Setta. A regular phonetic notation, Shrestha, Setta.
What does that mean again? The best?
The best, or it can mean also the boss or the leader. The original meaning is the best or the most glorious. And then by extension, it tends to mean the leader. The very opening words of the Dhammapada, Mano Bubbangama Dhamma, Mano Setta, Manomaya, Mano Setta, mind-led, led by the mind, Manomaya, consisting of mind. So this here, it's used as the second member of a compound. Buddha Setto means the Buddha leader, meaning the best of the Buddhas, you know, the chiefest among the Buddhas. Parivarnayi, Parivarneti just means to sing the praises of something. So this varna in Sanskrit would be parivarnayati. The varna means a color or a quality. So to peri-color it means to sing the praises of it. So that purity, which the best of Buddhas has praised, and if you look down to the box, the parsing box, this one there, is yam ahu, that which they have called, yam ahu, that which they have said, is the samadhim anantarikam, the uninterrupted, the without interval samadhi. So antarika, antara means between or an interval. So without pause, unceasing. You've often chanted Hatantarayo, haven't you?
I don't know.
Hatantarayo, it's in the...
Right. Tantarayo, yeah.
Are you going to explain the meaning of Hatantarayo?
No.
That's your job, James.
Okay.
No, it didn't even. Right. No.
It's the Buddha Mangalagata, is it?
Yes.
Tasanu Pavena Hatan. Oh goodness, I wish I could remember it. Just when you need to remember it.
Anne would remember it, she was there.
I would remember.
Anne remembers these things.
This is actually, I hope, a useful departure from our text here. Let's give it stem form Hatantaraya, and of course nominative singular Hatantarayo. This, and now look at here, this Anantarika. The antara means either in between or an interval. And it's cognate with the Latin word inter, between, and also our word interval. So a pause or a break, something that comes in between. So we also know, I'm getting somewhere, sorry. We also know we have our root E that makes the verbal noun aya, as in vayadama, samudaya, the arising of something. Niraya is a word for the lower end, niraya, the going down. So the aya means a going or a coming. an antara in between, antara plus aya, and that and those two a's merge into one long a. So antara aya becomes antaraya, is something that comes between you and your objective. Therefore, it means any obstacle on your path. That's the antaraya, an obstacle. Hatta from the root han, hatta means killed. If you are hatantaraya, then it means that your obstacles have been done away with. The obstacles have been killed. Anything that stands in the way of you and your goal has been slaughtered. Hatantarayo. Now, if something is anantara, it means without interval, therefore unbroken. And you can also make a further adjective. You can say anantara or anantarika. It has the same meaning. So yan samadhim, sorry, yan ahu, that which they have said, or that which people have stated to be the samadhim anantarikam, that uninterrupted samadhi. Samadhina tena samona vijjati. Vijjati is it's from our same root as avidya, vidya and avijja. It's from the root of it, meaning to see or to know. So, you know, in Latin it came to mean to see, in Sanskrit and Pali it more means to know. It's come into English as both because of video and visual from the Latin.
Right.
And it's come into English as form of wit, as in keep your wits about you or do something unwittingly. That's the same root of it. So vidyate means it is known or it is found. So navidyate simply means it does not exist. It's the passive form, by the way. This is one of the little confusions of Pali, but you'll get used to it in time. You might already be very used to it. But we have this root vid. Meaning to know. It also means to find. You make a passive in Sanskrit by taking the root, then putting a ya after it. Vidyate then is usually it is found, meaning it exists. Most commonly found in the negative, navidyate, it doesn't exist. And by regular phonetic mutation, the dya between the two vowels becomes asu. Vidyate, Pali vidyati. It isn't found, it does not exist. So there is nothing samo equal. Samona vidyate, there is nothing equal samadhina tena to that samadhi. Idam pidam me ratanam panitam. That is the sublime jewel in the Dhamma. Oddly enough, I was explaining just the other day this meaning of panita is that which is brought out, meaning that which you bring out for your guests, because ideally you bring out the best for your guests. But I explained the old Hindu idea that if you leave, is it to you that I was explaining that last week? The old Hindu idea that if you leave your guest unfed or dissatisfied, he will leave when he leaves, he'll leave his bad karma with you, take all your good karma with him. That's the attendant belief. So that's very important to make sure you feed your guests well. But oddly enough, just within the last couple of days, listening to a talk by Ajahn Sumedho, talking about when he was living in a very poor part of rural Thailand, when they're on the arms round, he said even very poor people will make sure they bring out the best of what they have to give to the monks. That reminded me exactly this. So the tradition still lives. So I just read it through once more. No, actually,
I haven't got it, James. I haven't got a copy of it.
Have you not got the? Do you not have it on your phone?
No, what I've got on the phone is the primer, the book.
Oh.
Yeah.
Actually, what I can, let me just, oh, maybe they're doing a sit. Let me just check. I could bring in a chanting book.
Are you hot?
A little bit hot, yeah, it's quite stuffy in here. Yeah.
You hang on to that. I've got this one. You got your text, didn't you?
Yep, yep.
Would you like to recite it with very careful attention to the,
No.
the light vowels and the heavy vowels?
Not especially, no. Which one is it? It's the one beginning with yum.
Yum Buddhaseto.
Yeah, yum buddhaseto parivanai suchim samadhim anantarikam yam aho samadhina tena samo navijati idam pi dhamme ratanam anitam etena sachena sudati hotu.
Right. We can give it a bit more visibility. For example, idam me dadam baram idam me ratanam ranitam.
Okay. That sounds to me like goodness gracious me, that program that was on TV years ago. Do you remember?
I think I vaguely remember from a very long time ago.
So they were doing kind of imitation Indian accents.
Yeah.
Oh, that goodness gracious.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wouldn't be allowed today, probably. It was on TV years ago. Yeah.
So, Yam Buddhaseto Parivanai Suchim Samadhim Anantari Kanyama Samadhina Tena Sabo Navijati Idam Pitam Ratanam Panitam. Now, I know that you can chant this very well. You've done it.
Well, yes. What do you want to do? Do you want to?
Actually, you can either do a prose recitation or a chant. In a way, actually, chanting helps you to pronounce it better because the chanting imposes the rhythm on you.
Yes, okay, I'll try. Yeah. Yang Buddhaseto Parivanai Suching Samadhim Dima Nantarakan Namahu Samadhinate Nasamo Navijati Idam Bidame Ratanang Banitang Etena Sachena Suwati Hotu.
Actually, it's interesting that because it wasn't a full chant, but you clearly had the
Yes.
It really
Right.
does help to get the quantities right.
Samadhima Nantarakan Namahu. So is there a pause between Nantarakan
So Anantarikanyamahu, you mean?
Between the N and the T, does that count as a single?
I'm sorry, I haven't followed which
Yeah,
part
but so-
you're looking at.
So this bit here, you
Anantarikam.
can
Also,
Mantarikam. Okay, so
yes, in fact, this second box probably. What I've done in the
oh, I
first
see.
box,
Okay, right.
so in the
Samadhi.
first box, I've actually slavishly followed the way it would have been written in the Devanagari
Right.
script.
Okay.
You can ignore that. The second box, I put more aids for students by dividing up the words.
Right. Okay.
So Anantarikam
Anantarikam.
is actually one word. It's the adjectival form of antara,
Yeah.
interval, anantara without an interval, and you can make an adjective, further adjective, like anantarika. So it is all one word. By the way, you've got an anantarikanyam, that two nyas together. What's actually happened is that it's the same yam that the verse begins with. Yam buddha seto anantarikam yam ahu.
Right.
So what happens when the yam immediately follows a word ending with a m?
Yeah.
They kind
Okay.
of coalesce into a double nya. They don't have to, but in this verse that they do. So before we move on, were there any doubts or queries about this verse?
So have we done the second line?
Samadhina.
Tena samona vichiti.
Yes, Samadhina tena. In fact, the second line is pretty similar to the third line rather.
Right.
Pretty similar to the third lines in the previous ones.
Okay.
The samona vidyati there is nothing equal to it. And you see, for example, if you look at the third verse, nano samamati tathagatena, not for us is there anything equal to the Tathagata.
Right. Yeah.
And the next verse after that, natena dhammena samati kinchi, there is nothing equal to or the same as that dhamma for us. And here, samadhina tena samo navijjati. So samo navijjati, there is nothing the same. The Pali sama and our English word same are etymologically, in fact, the same word. So the samo navijjati, there is no equal, there is nothing equal to it. Samadhina tena samo navijjati, there is nothing equal to tena samadhina, that samadhi.
What does it mean then without interval, without pause?
I can explain the Pali, but I'm not quite sure that I can actually
I
explain.
don't know what it means.
What is this?
What
So it actually meant to mean here, I wonder.
So
Maybe,
okay, it's called interval without interval. Okay.
maybe he's talking about, once you were at that stage of enlightenment, you were in a permanent state of samadhi. What it seems to be saying.
Sorry?
Is what it seems to be saying. An uninterrupted samadhi.
Well, I think the thing about, so I mean, within the Abhidhamma, the mind is constantly falling back into Vibhanga, so into a kind of resting state. So the chitta and it falls back, chitta and it falls back. So the thing about jhana is that it doesn't fall back. It's the only time there is a continuous chitta present. And it may be referring to that. So it may be related to jhana, yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
So you said falls back into the Vibhanga.
Yes.
Vibhanga would mean kind of discriminating, arguing about it.
Oh no! What am I? I've got it. No. What am I? Not the Vibhanga. What am I talking about? No, falling back into. It'll come to me. So the kind of resting state of the mind.
Okay, but there's the active and resting.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's the sort of so it's the idea that we're kind of born with underlying consciousness, which is there in the background, as it were. Our mind is then constantly rising up and falls back, rises up, falls back to that. So no, what is it called? It'll come to me anyway. The
half know the word you're looking for as well. So that might make sense, and this could refer to that, rather than the chit that's constantly arising.
Yes.
Is the permanent state of the pure clear mind.
So it's just continuous with continually with the jhana chitta for that period of time.
Okay, right.
There's no shifting away from it. So
that appears to be the answer then.
Maybe, yeah.
So,
okay, yep.
Are you all ready to move on to a bit?
Yep. Okay.
A little bit of Lily de Silva.
All right, Lily de Silva. Okay.
Silva lesson 7.
It's the Beatles song with Lily.
There's Lily the Pink.
Oh, Lily the
the
Pink. I'm
Pink,
thinking
yeah.
of Lily the Pink. Yes.
When I kind of think one fancies might have been a favourite with the medical students.
Right.
Medicinal
Compound. Yes. No, I'm afraid no. No, absolutely the opposite. An unqualified practitioner trying to take doctor's work, not.
So,
Right.
looking at lesson 7, all of the words in the vocabulary, most of the words in the vocabulary, are fairly common words. There are some that are actually very interesting. Some of them you can almost get from their shape. In the first one, navika, the sailor.
Naval.
Naval, nautical person. So it's that same word. Akasa. And we know the word okasa.
Right,
as well.
okay, yeah.
It's from the root gash, meaning to shine. The root meaning of gash is to shine. And in Sanskrit, akasha, Pali, akasa, actually means, it can mean light as well as so it means space, basically space or the sky. It is that through which light shines, through which the light shines uninterrupted is the akasa. It has the root meaning of light, and then that which allows light, akasa, to go forth. Now, very interestingly, that wonderful word okasa, much beloved of Paul Denison, actually,
Yes,
one of his favorite words. That okasa, it means literally shining down. It's often used to mean opportunity. It means leaving the way clear. For example, if somebody respectfully approaches the Buddha, you find in the sutras, you respectfully ask them a question. Might the Blessed One give me the okasa to ask a question? So it's the opportunity to ask a question. And it's one of it's a word that's good. It's pregnant with meaning. And it's one of these words where you, by seeing the root and the prefix, you almost kind of see into it. So you've got the root kash, meaning light. One of the names of Benares is Kashi, as you may know, the brilliant city, city of light. So, in Sanskrit, so Ava means down. So Avakasha means literally shining down. So this prefix Ava, which is cognate with our English word off, by the way, off or down, it often turns up in Pali as an O, which is softened to an O. So Sanskrit Avakasha and Pali Okasa are the same word. And I've researched quite a bit of it and see what more I can find out about it. I think the underlying meaning is that you are making space. You're clearing yourself out of the way for light to shine down. And in the meetings where you're sitting in a group meeting, say, Okasa, that's the idea of, keep ourselves out of the way, let the light shine. So it has that kind of spiritual meaning as well as a very mundane meaning of, may the Blessed One please give me the okasa to ask a question.
Yes, it's interesting because in English we say space. Will you give me the space?
Exactly, yes. Give me space, yes.
To ask
it's that same kind of underlying idea. Getting out of the way, giving space for something else to happen. So we give space and you allow the light, which effectively leaving space, allowing the light. I hadn't thought of that. That's a nice one. Particularly since akasa also has this idea of space.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I used to do shiatsu, I was a shiatsu practitioner years ago, and we used to talk about when you decided on your plan of how you were going to do the section, you had to get yourself out of the way, but so that you could work with the kind of energies on the meridians and stuff.
Take your ego out of the way of the flow of energy.
Yes,
that's very much the idea of kasa.
Yeah, because otherwise it would just interfere and you wouldn't be able to have the effect that you wanted. Yeah.
Well, there it is. That's the idea of the flowing, the shining of the light, keeping out of the way. Samudra means the ocean or sea.
Yes.
I've just found my copy. I remember last time I found online the Louis de Silva in a PDF and I downloaded it. So it's just a photo now. So I don't need to connect to the internet. I'm just using mine.
Oh, you've actually got that downloaded?
I've got it downloaded on my phone,
Right.
I'd forgotten about that.
So Samudra meaning the sea or the ocean, how does that come about?
Right. So actually, I'm glad you asked. It's a really fun word. So we've got this this root ud, which actually it turns up in English as wet. So ud and wet are from the same root.
How about the city Udaipur? Is that ud at the beginning?
The city of the arising, that the ud-aya, as in samudaya, that would have the ud-aya. So,
but the Indian city of Udaipur, is that the same ud at the beginning?
It would be the same, that would be from ud-aya, the arising.
Right.
The city of the arising. I don't know why and when it says that. I'll do some more research on that, see if I can find out. But anyway, this is just ud, wet. Now, in many Sanskrit words, you add a ra to the root to give it an adjectival meaning, or sometimes a nominal meaning. So there's a root, an ancient root, hardly ever use that meaning of ind, meaning power or strength, and indra is that which has power or strength. So we have the indriyas, the senses. So udra or udara is that which is wet. So udara is directly cognate with our English word water. So wet and water are actually from the same root. So, and you can see there's not too much phonetic change in udara to water. You can see the link. It's remained actually, not too much change over the last 3,000 years or so. Now, and udara also, there are two forms of the word. One is udra. So the udra and water, we can see how they're the same word. And the prefix sam is same as the Latin co and con. Where the waters are joined, but all the waters gather together. Sam udra.
Right.
The gathering of
right.
the waters.
Okay.
As the rivers sniff the sea.
Yep.
And this udra and water, it's same as the Greek word for it. It's the same as the hydro, udra, hydro, water.
Okay.
All that same word. So the samudra, the sea, deva and sura, we know. Deva actually from the root div, meaning to shine. So it's the shining beings. And it's likely from the same root, this dew root, which comes into English as day, which is the bright half of it, as opposed to the night. Loka, world, is everything visible. Everything is known to the senses as the loka. In modern Hindi, the word log just means people. But loka, everything that can be seen. And there's the root loch, actually, which does mean to look. So the loch, loka, our modern English word to look, are all from the same root as that which can be seen. And it also came to mean light. So the aloka is the lighting forth.
I think that's a name as well. I used to know a Sri Lankan Vodaloka.
Which is a name, not but even closer to us, because Veronica's granddaughter in the family, she's currently at this moment visiting in Canada, has the name Aloka. Yes, yeah.
Oh, I forgot she was going to Canada. She didn't mention
that's
that.
right. She's there now. She's back.
This week she's back.
So is it that?
No, I don't think so. Well, it could be at the end of the week.
I don't think she's back by Saturday because
Right.
I think it's at sometime after.
Okay.
Sometime to the and the word gaka for a crow is just obvious on the map here. Gaka. The Thai for crow is just a ka.
Is it? Yeah.
Sorry, in Thai.
In Thai, crow is ka.
I don't know if Merlin would recognise.
Nivasa, house. So vas means to dwell. So the nivasa, the indwelling, the place in which one dwells.
Okay.
We have here Sapurisa and Asapurisa. In Sanskrit, we have the word Purusha. And that has all sorts of extended meanings in Hindu mythology as well. You have Purusha as opposed to Prakriti, meaning nature. I can't pretend to know much about it, but in its ordinary meaning, it just means a bloke, specifically male. So that's Purisa, Purusha in Sanskrit, Purisa in Pali. whenever you put sat in front of something, it's the same sat as we find in satya, meaning the truth, and it just means good. So we have the Saddharma, the good law, we have the Saddharma Pundarika Sutra, the sutra of the lotus of the good law. We have Sadguru, the famous Indian, the motorcycle riding Indian guru, Sadguru.
Yeah.
So in Sanskrit, it would be Sat Purusha, which then becomes Satpurisa in Pali. You just negate that by an so a Satpurisa is an ungood man, a wicked person, an ungood man.
Yes, well, it's kind of my good man, isn't it? It's the equivalent almost.
Yes. Was that in that? What's it called? My goodness gracious me.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, it's used to be it's kind of old-fashioned way of my good man.
My good man.
Yes.
I think we did use that in goodness gracious me. The Coopers, the Kapoors, calling themselves Coopers. Yeah.
Pity these old-fashioned phrases and I think the idea was my good man was senior to juniors, like my good and faithful servant.
Right.
My good man, I imagine. Now, Gaia, we know Gaia, it means body. But this is actually a particularly interesting word because it's from the root chi. This is another example of where you get the k and ch variation. So the word Gaia actually means an accumulation. It's from the root chi, which means to heap up. With me so far?
Yeah.
Make a verbal noun of it, you have chaya, which means heaping up or assembling. If you reverse the assembling, you have vichaya, as in dhamma vichaya, which is commonly translated as the analysis of states. The vichaya literally means unheaping, deconstructing. So, for example, if you feel a certain state, like, let's take for the sake of example, anger, you can do a dhamma vichaya on it. You actually take it to pieces to see what it's really made of. So it has the exact notion of taking something's all one heap, one solid mass. The vichaya is you're unpicking it, pulling it apart to analyze it. That's the vichaya. From that same root chi, but flipped into a K, is the Gaia. So the Gaia just means the accumulation. So that's the body seen as an accumulation of parts. Which is a very interesting way of looking at it. It's not just one of the monolithic word meaning bodies.
Yeah.
The accumulation, which encourages us to think of, it encourages the, not thinking of the body as me, but just this assemblage of bits put together. Duta and Gona, I think they're fairly ordinary word. Duta, a messenger. Gona actually is from the same word as go, meaning a cow. Ahindati, it's a fairly ordinary word, at the top of the second column there, wonders. Charati, again, a very common root, char, from which we get combinate with the English word car, chariot, carriage. Nisidati, knit down, sidati sits.
Right.
And it makes the house participle nisinna, meaning seated. Nisinno chamanje sambudho dipadam setto Nisinnocheva Machime, Nisinnocha Machime is sitting in the middle.
Right. Okay.
Sambuddho Deepadam Sekto, that's the same Sekto that we were just looking at in the Ratana Sutta. Deepadam Sekto, the chiefest, the best of the bipeds. Deepa Dvipad is a biped. So the Buddha, the best of bipeds. Sannipatati, it's from this root pat, meaning it means both to fall and to fly, or oddly enough, it has both meanings. So nipatati means to fly down. Sannipatati is to assemble together. The imagery is of a flock of birds. You see birds flying down to land in the same place. Sannipatati is also used for example, an assemblage of monks. The Buddha approach he found this assemblage of monks gathered together, sannipatita, literally flown down together. This imagery of a flock of birds.
Reminds me of that Iranian poetry, that conference of the birds.
The conference of the birds, that's right. Mandelotay,
James, I just need to take a comfort break, if that's
of course, and of course it's 8:10, so we could
right
there after
okay.
tea break. So
So
we'll switch off the of course.
My bad. To make you a cup of tea on the way back?
That would be kind of you, Francis. Just in any herbal. But just turn off for a tea break. Recording. So we'll look now at some people might find a little bit boring, but sadly necessary. Locatives, and how to form a locative. In fact, it's reasonably easy. The masculiners and neuters ending in up, just the final up becomes a. In Pali, we have different forms of the locative. For example, Dhamma. The locative form would be Dhamme, which we've just seen in the Ratana Sutta. Idam pi Dhamme Ratanam Panitam. This is the sublime jewel in the Dhamma. In Sanskrit, it is just an air, but in Pali there are two alternative forms. Dhammami, Dhammasmi. You'll find all forms used in Pali. There's no distinction of meaning at all, and you'll even find alternative forms used in the same sentence. So there's no distinction of meaning.
And so, so why are there three forms? If there's no distinction of meaning, why?
There is no distinction of meaning. Sanskrit doesn't allow it. Sanskrit just has one form. The reason actually is, in Sanskrit, you have what's known, and in Pali as well. Let's look at Sanskrit. You have what's known as the pronominal declension. So, for example, you have Dhamma, Dhamme. That's the ordinary word ending in short a, like the majority of masculines and neuters in Sanskrit and Pali ending in short a. You have a different declension, which is known as the pronominal declension. It declines partly like and partly unlike ordinary nouns. So, eka, meaning one, in one or at one in Sanskrit is not eke, but ekasmin. Now, in Sanskrit, they're both locatives. In Sanskrit, the nouns ending in a exclusively take this form of the locative, dharme, buddhe, vihare. And in Sanskrit, the separate pronominal declension, of which sarva is one, or eka, anyatra, another. In Sanskrit, this will be the locative form. What's happened is that Pali has kind of blurred the distinction. So the asmin in Sanskrit has also come to be used in nouns as well, which Sanskrit wouldn't allow. So asmin becomes either asmi or amhi in Pali. It is just a level of slight confusion that has happened in Pali. But this is one of those cases, I'm glad you asked the question, Mike, because this is one of those cases where you think, well, why are there these different forms? If you look back to the Sanskrit, say, aha, that explains it. In fact, this ekasmin form also exists in Pali. We know the word samaya, meaning a time. Hey presto. Ekasmin samaye, a well-known phrase, at one time. And tasamin samaye, at that time. Ekasmin samaye, at one time. You know, which we find at the beginning of many of the suttas, at a certain time, the Buddha was residing viharati at such and such a place. As I say, there is no distinction of meaning at all. In descriptive. The ending in a is more common, but you will find the others. Sometimes Pali writers will use, if you've got several locatives in a row, they'll sometimes just vary the ending. What's in English literary parlance called elegant variation. In Sanskrit, you aren't allowed to do that. Sanskrit is much more regular and orderly. And so Sanskrit grammar is much like the guards on parade. Everyone does exactly the right thing. They know where they are. They know what they're doing. Pali tends to be a little bit of a disorderly crowd sometimes. But I make no apology going back to Sanskrit and explaining the Sanskrit. Because if you go back to that orderliness behind it, remember Pali and Sanskrit, of course, came from a common parent. It does explain so much. The locative plural, by the way, even without looking at it, Angie, do you know the locative plural of nouns in short?
I've just seen it, but I can't remember it. My mind has just gone so quickly.
But in Francis, the locative plural of nouns ending in the short a. Esu, yes. And so we think gamesu michachara. So
right.
That's it. It's eshu in Sanskrit, esu in Pali. So the locative basically means, well, as the word implies, the location is in something. Vihare in the monastery, Jambudvipe in India. But it very frequently has the meaning of with regard to, in respect of. And that's the meaning that it has in Gamesu Michachara. So the Michachara, misconduct in respect of Gamas, in respect of sensory pleasures, sensory life. And also in the Satipatthana Sutta, in the early part of it, it's sometimes translated as, observes the body in the body, and observes the Vedanas, the feelings in the Vedanas.
I'd like to study that.
It's one of my
I
favourites.
really want to do that, because a
Yeah.
few people have mentioned it from different places.
If you can get in on Chris Murray Jones is doing a week or 10 days on it in November at Green Street.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, Bhikkhu does not use that translation. See, it doesn't say being mindful of the feelings in the feelings. With regard to feelings, so far as concerns feelings. So what he's saying is, kaye kayanupasi, with regard to the body, the first foundation of mindfulness is body mindfulness. So kaye, with regard to the body, all you have to do is observe the body. And with regard to the vedanas, to the sensations, all you have to do is be mindful or observe those sensations. So there's a bit of a dispute about what that actually means. But I tend to go with Bhikkhu Bodhi. I'm quite a big Bhikkhu Bodhi fan anyway. People have sometimes criticized Bhikkhu Bodhi for being a little bit, slightly stilted, wooden kind of translation, which is partially true. It doesn't read like flowing poetic English. However, with that said, he is phenomenally useful if you're a student of Pali, because the way he translates, he follows the Pali so closely. His translation really helps you stick to the text and analyze the text. So he's Norman is another one who does that. So Bhikkhu Bodhi and Norman, they're really good translators if you're studying the text. Debbie and Richard Teal are about to do a day of practice, and it's the second session. You've probably seen the notices have been sent around on this second Saturday in July. And
I think it's on the Sunday actually. Or is it
sorry, you're right, it's Sunday. You're right.
Yeah.
And she's just sent the notice round. But before she did that, she sent me a translation. The story of Sona, the lute player, and the Buddha was aware that he was just stretching himself too much.
Right.
Yeah. Sona, you used to be a lute player. Do you remember when you played the lute? If the strings were too slack, you didn't get the right sound. If they were too taut, you didn't get the right sound. Tune them correctly. So with your meditation, tune the energy of your senses, not too taut, not too slack. Debbie just sent me a translation. She had not asked me to make sure it was correct as well. So I did a very Bhikkhu Bodhi-like translation, very close to the Pali. And of course, Debbie, that doesn't sound very poetic. I read it as a very poetic language. You see, so it's the very poetic translation of that Sona bit that appears in her notice about it. With a lot of poetic license, I took that. How did we get onto that?
How did we get onto it?
Papancha.
Right.
The papancha of the mind, the proliferation of the mind. We haven't been. Should we just go through the examples in a sentence of formation?
Okay.
Very, very simple.
Yeah.
So here is the first one. Just the snake falls on the man. So let's say again, Lily de Silva, she's written this very useful work, really, really simple elementary grammar and introduction to the absolute basics of it. But she's all these kind of slightly annoying made-up sentences that actually, for the Pali class of the Sampradaya that we're starting in autumn, that's the reason that I chose the Ger and Karuna book. Requires a bit more effort of concentration. Every single example even in the grammar notes throughout the entire book, are all genuinely taken from actual Pali texts. So there are no made up sentences. You know, with that said,
It makes a difference.
sorry?
It makes a difference.
It does make a difference.
Yeah.
You're looking at real stuff. Yeah. So anyway, let's look at the snake falls on the man. Sapo. Do you recognize the word sapo by any chance?
No.
In Sanskrit, it is sarpa.
Ah.
Sarpa, which in Pali becomes sappa, and in Latin becomes serpens. It's a serpent.
Right.
So sarpa, the serpent, and sappa. It's from the root srip, which just means to slither along. The slitherer. The sapo narasmin patati, the snake falls on the man. Here the locative is what you're falling onto. That sentence could equally correctly read sapo nare patati or sapo naramhi patati, the three different forms of the locative, without any distinction of meaning. And the next one, the son is pleased with the uncle. Using the word pasidati, try to explain as much broader meaning than that. I was mentioning a few moments ago the use of the locative, meaning with regard to, in respect of. Here, if you're pleased with something, what you are pleased with, using this verb, is in the locative. You are pleased with regard to something. And if you are fearful of something, you have your fear with regard to something, which can also be put in the locative. So putto matulamhi pasidati. So if you are happy and satisfied with the Buddha's teaching, you say Buddha dhamme pasidami. See, that's this sense of satisfaction, open-minded receptivity to it. And Varnijo kasmin pasidati. The merchant is pleased with the farmer. But Varnijo, merchant, it's the same thing. It's the same as the surname that you find in modern India, the Indian surname Banerjee. It's that same word. It's Mr. Merchant. Banerjee in India is transliterated as Banerjee in English. And then in the plural, just Sapa naresu patanti. Remember, in the singular, you can have three forms of the locative, in the plural, it's just esu. And Buddha maturesu pasidanti.
And do all three versions appear equally within the Pali text? Do they appear equally, the three different versions?
The A one is probably more common. I don't know what the actual distribution is. I don't know, maybe 60, 20, 20, maybe something like that. So these other two versions are by no means rare. It's just that the one in A is, if you counted, you almost certainly find it would be more common. But the important thing to remember is that it doesn't affect the meaning in any way. Sometimes small variations in words do affect the meaning, but in this case not. Actually, now we're here sitting, looking at these Lily de Silva exercises. And actually, looking at that first sentence, where it says translated into English. Brahmano sahayakena saddhim ratami nisidati. Can you get that, what that means? Nisidati, we just heard.
Is it sit or something?
Exactly.
Yes.
And ratha. Ratha actually is a chariot.
Oh, okay.
And the word originally meant a wheel,
Ah, yeah. I think you told
which
us
comes
that.
into Latin as rota, yes, in rotary, it turns around like wheel rotate. So rota in Latin, and rata. So ratamhi nisidati is sitting in the chariot,
Yeah.
which could equally be rate nisidati or ratasmin pasidati nisidati. And the Sahaya Kena Saddim, do you remember the Saddim word? This means with.
Can't remember the ena ending.
That's the
The genitive.
it's the instrumental. So the Dhamma taught by the Buddha is Dhammo Buddhena Desito. And as we've just seen in the Ratana Sutta, we say nothing is equal to, in English we say equal to, but in Pali and Sanskrit we say sama, samo, and then with the instrumental. And that's how we get the one we've just done. Samadhina tena was, it's not ena, but ina. Let's go to the previous version of the ena form. Natena dhammena sama bhakti inji. There is nothing equal tena dhammena, literally by that dhamma, but say nothing equal to that dhamma. And the Sahayaka is, there are two words for with. There's sabdim, which is the word you see in sentence 1 here, and the other word is saha. Saha. Okay, now a moment ago, maybe an hour ago, we were looking at the word aya, meaning a going. So saha plus aya plus ka means somebody who does something cognate with Greek ikos language. So saha ayaka, the person you go with, therefore your friend becomes sahayaka. But so these two are plus so saha ayaka, sahayaka. That explains this meaning of companion. Literally, the person who goes with you. Whereas in Latin we have the person who has bread with you. Companis, companis, bread. Person you have your bread with. Sadim, this prepositional postposition in this case takes the instrumental. And do you recall the difference between when you use sadim and saha and when you don't? When you use saha, meaning with, it tends to mean in the company of a person. Whereas, like you're walking with your friend or you're walking with a stick. If you're walking with a friend, sahaya kena saha, charity, sahaya kena saha, in the company of your friend. If you're walking with a stick, you're just using your stick to help you walk. So you just say dandena. So he's walking with a stick with his friend. In English, you don't distinguish. So in Sanskrit or in Pali, sahaya kena sadim dandena charity. If you said dandena saha charity, it sounds rather absurd because it would suggest that you were walking along your stick was walking along there next to you. So just using the pure instrumental form is you are using it as an instrument to help you do something. As for example, in the refrain at the end of the verses of the Ratana Sutta, etena satchena, by this truth, by means of this truth. We have it in
Yeah, that's familiar.
we have it in Anubhava as well. Sabba Buddhanubhavena, the Anubhava is like the charisma or grace. Anubhavena means by their grace, the power that emanates from them. And possibly we could do just one more before we wind up. So.
My power's gone, so it's.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant your mental power.
2%, well, that went ages ago, but 2%. 2% of my phone left.
The end of your power.
It's just a sign.
So, Asapurisa, the ungood men.
Yeah.
Asapurisa. Chure hisaha game sucharanti. The ungood men, the wicked men. Chure hisaha, with feet are walking, charanti are going, are walking. Chure hisaha, in the company of thieves. Gamesu, in villages. This means wicked men are prowling around the villages with thieves.
So the Gamesu is the villages?
Yes, Gama.
Right, is village. And the Kore is?
Chora is a thief.
Chora, okay, yeah. Right, okay, right.
Gama, in Sanskrit, grama, becomes in many words in Hindi, modern India, place names end in gaon. That murder of Indian tourists in Kashmir that sparked off the problem. That was a place called Pahalgaon, which was the Pahal village of Grama in Sanskrit, Gama in Pali, Gaon in Hindi. It actually comes from the root grub, a grubma, a grama. The grub meaning is a collection of people. And in fact, then it comes into Latin as a gruppa, into English as a group. So a grama, harigama, and a grouping, it's a grouping of houses, meaning the village. How is your power surviving, Henry?
Well, it's going to
Mental
stop. That's the problem when you're running these apps. You have to keep charging.
Okay, then, shall we wind up with a blessing?
Yep.
For a blessing.
Bhavatu sabba mangalam rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhan bhavena saraswati bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalam rakhantu sabba devata sabba dhamma bhavena saraswati bhavantu me. Bhavatu sabba mangalam rakhantu sabba devata sabba sanghanu bhavena saraswati bhavantu te. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Good, right.
We should the alternative versions. Saraswati Bhavantu no.
No, yes, indeed. Yep.
Te is specifically singular to thee, as if you're addressing it to one person.
Right, okay.
And we really need to be addressing it to ourselves. Bhavantu no.
Yes, it doesn't have quite the same.
We should be calling blessings
Ring.
neutrally down
Yes.
upon each other.
Yes, yes. You, us, yeah.
We could say you in the plural would be Bhavantu vo.
Vo, right.
No to us, vo to you plural.
Mm.
But te is so specifically
Yes.
singular.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Quite the thing.
Yes, yes, no, tricky.
That's also so used to transmission.
Today. I mean, the advantage of the tail, you see, is if you tail it off, then it has that earthing effect. One, two, te. But when I mean, maybe you can. But 1, 2, no. You can't quite. Yes.
But there's a different vibration there.
It does.
The vibratory effect of the tongue.
Yeah, slightly different. So I mean, the tradition really is, you say, the sadhu is an additional way to earth something. So if you feel that the te hasn't fully earthed it, then you do sadhu. So that was what Lance used to say.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So if you felt that the blessing had brought something down to earth properly, no need to say the sadhu. Yeah, sadhu.
I hadn't known that was how Lance put it. So it's very much like the amen or the
yes,
amen.
Yes.
It's like a kind of affirmation of agreeing with, affirming your acceptance of what's been said.
But that sort of earthing of something is quite interesting.
I hadn't anticipated
going to the kind of
heard that one before at all.
Going to something higher, you come back to the ordinary life. With
My
less
great loss that I overlapped with Lance for one year.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, you should be very. You should have appreciative joy of the fact that you did have 1 year.
Well, okay. The thing was,
you weren't at the same place or something.
We were the same place. We were both. Lance still an undergraduate then. I can't remember. But he, in those 2 years of my last 2 years as an undergraduate, but the 2 years in which I was a member of the Buddhist Society, was just the first of those 2 years I overlapped with Lance. And in that first year, I wasn't taking it quite as seriously as in my second year. So I turned up for the meetings, got to know a few people. People started off with my movement in that first year. It was only in my second year that I got much more deeply involved with it, by which time Lance had left. But Paul had stayed, so I overlapped with Paul for those 2 years. That's why I say my loss, that I didn't seize the opportunity. Indeed, I wasn't aware of how great an opportunity it was.
Well, maybe it was maybe it was what was needed at the time. It's interesting. It's interesting. You don't. I remember there was once when I've been practicing a couple of years, there was an Abhidhamma group started, and most of the other people in the class I was attending were invited to the Abhidhamma class, and I wasn't.